So I'm going to start with the key for the November mystery sock, and this is from Clue 2. It's got a few more items on it than Clue 1, but I'll go over the ones that are going to pertain to what I'm working on right now, and give you a little insight as to how I figured out how to do this cabling and read the key. So we'll start with this one. This top one is a right cross, and there's one thing you have to really pay attention to on this pattern, which now that I'm doing the video I realize I didn't do. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference though. But there's two blocks together to represent each of the cables. So a half of a block, these triangle shapes, some of them are white, and then like this one right here, this one's grayed out. If we go over here, these two are gray, these two are gray, these are gray, these are gray. So that's going to make a little bit of a difference as to what kind of stitch you're going to be doing for each of those stitches on your work. So let's look at this one. The first thing that I do when I look at the two blocks, since you're reading the pattern from right to left, is I look at the left hand one. This is going to help me determine how I put the needle, my right hand needle, into my work to grab one of the stitches to get ready to do the cable without the needle. So I look at this, and if it's at the bottom, then that to me is representing it being closer, and I put my needle in the front, and I'll show that in a minute and it'll make sense. So I look here, I see where this diagonal is going, and that's pointed down to the bottom left. As far as this line goes, I know the stitch is actually going up to the right, but this is down left, so that means I'm going to put my my needle in front. This right here is, to me, an indicator that I'm going to put my needle in the back of my work, and so this is going to make the difference when it comes to whether or not you're holding your cabled stitch. You know, if you were to put it on a cable needle, whether you're holding it to the back of your work or the front of your work. So then what I do is I look to see what the stitches are. So these are both knit stitches. These are knit stitches. Anything with a dash is going to be a purl stitch. Now this one that has the two white blocks, two completely white blocks, is knit the next stitch and then knit the stitch from the cable needle. So that's knit this one and then knit this one. This one, for instance, is going to be purl this and then knit that one. So once you make your crossover, then it's just a matter of looking to see what the two stitches are that you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to my work, show you where I'm at on my pattern, and then do some of these stitches so that maybe it'll make some sense. So I'm going to start out this one. I'm going to knit. That's the basic knit according to the key, not a knit behind or knit through the back loop. So I'm going to knit 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to purl 2, and then I'm going to come to this first cabling piece. And using the little logic that I had, if you look at the second square of the cable pattern, the diagonal is up at the top left, so that means I'm going to put the needle through the back, and then I'll do my crossover, and then I'm going to purl and then knit through the back loop. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that once I get to it. Alright, so now here's the part in the pattern that I was talking about. So I look right here at the second one, and it's top left, so that means I'm going to put my needle in the back. And then I'm going to do my switch, and then purl, and then knit through the back loop according to those two squares. So that on the legend is this one, twist to left. So it says slip one stitch to the cable needle, hold in front. So by me putting my needle in the back, that's actually going to hold that stitch to the front. And then I'm going to purl and then knit through the back loop. Alright, so here's how I do that. So according to the pattern, I'm going to put my needle in the back. So what I do is I hold these two stitches with my thumb, and then I reach through the back. I always have my my working yarn to the back. So I reach to the back, I put my needle in, and now here comes the tricky part. And it can be a little shaky sometimes. I haven't messed up majorly at all doing all these cable stitches on this pair of socks. So here's what you do: you put it behind. So that's going to be the one that you're holding onto that needle with. And now what I'm going to do is, with my left hand, I'm sliding the needle down, and I want to slide it down and pull my right hand over a little bit, just enough to slip this first stitch off the needle and hold it in place so that I can get back to it again. So I pull it off, there it is, I slip it on. So that's essentially holding that to the front, and that's what that stitch said, was slip one stitch to the cable needle and hold in front. So basically that's what's happening here, is it's holding that stitch to the front. And then what I do is, I've got that on my left needle, now I need to get the other one on there so that I can work it. So I kind of pull them around, and then I need to slip that stitch onto my left needle. Now I've got them crossed over. And that's what that stitch is doing, is it's coming over that left, or that right hand stitch is coming out and over in front of, to the left, the other one. And then I'm going to purl and then knit through the back loop. So now I purl and then knit through the back loop. And then the pattern calls for another purl after that. And now we're coming to the exact same stitch again. It's kind of hard to hold. I need another hand. Alright, so here's that stitch, the exact same one. So what I first do is I look, and I kind of say this out loud to myself, to keep in my mind what I need to do after I look away from the pattern. So I look, and I need to put it through the back since it's at the top. Since that's pointing up at the top, to me, that diagonal line, that means that I want to put it in the back needle, or put the needle in back of the work. So I'm going to say back, purl, knit through the back. That's what I say to myself: back, purl, knit through the back. So here's how I do that. So I go back, I slip this off, pull it around and catch that, and that'll get a little easier with time. Obviously the more you do it, the easier it's going to be to know exactly how you need to hold it. And I make sure that I kind of pinch it really well with my thumb to keep that loop or to keep that stitch from dropping. So back, purl, knit through the back. So now I purl, and then knit through the back. And now if I look at the pattern again, the next one on there is the opposite of that. So this next one is, I look at it, I look at the second one of that 2 block, and it's to the front this time. It's down left, so that's to the front to me. That tells me I need to put my needle in the front. So I'll say front, knit through the back, and actually this one, according to the legend, is not going to be a knit through the back, it's going to be a knit. So I'll say front, knit, purl. Front because it's pointed to the bottom left hand corner, that tells me where I need to put my needle. Front, knit, purl. So this time I still keep my working yarn to the back. So then I go through I look at these 2 stitches, and I go through the front this time and grab the stitch, front, and now I need to slip that off. So I pull my needle out. I'm holding it, see I'm holding it real tight. See where my finger is right here? I'm holding that against the needle tight so that that loop stays up. I grab it, and then you need to put that other one from the right needle on there. And be careful with the tension because sometimes they can get pulled really hard and it makes it hard to get into the stitch. So this one's going to be front, and then I knit and then purl. Knit, and then whoops, try that again. Purl, front, knit, purl, and then it calls for another purl stitch. And now the pattern calls for the exact same thing, the front, knit, purl, right here, front because it's bottom left, and then knit, purl. So I go to the front and grab that second one. You're always grabbing the second one in this pattern. So you grab the second one, and see I'm holding it right here so that once I slide that needle out, that stitch isn't going to go anywhere, hopefully. So front, let it come out, push it back in, and then hold this with this thumb or finger or whatever. That's what I do. I hold it to make sure it doesn't slide off that needle, and then I slip that on. So front, and then knit, purl. So hard doing this. Alright, it got kind of tight. So there we have it. And now this stitch has crossed over correctly. These have angled into each other, and then this one has crossed over correctly. And like I said, it got kind of tight knitting in front of with my arms outstretched in front of the camera is really awkward. So I hope that helps with how to do that. And it's basically the same thing no matter. So remember, this, whenever that line that divides that second square representing that second stitch, whenever it points up to the left, that means you're going to grab the stitch from the back, and then whenever it points down to the left, it means you're going to grab it from the front. So you grab it, you pull the left hand needle out, and then you slip the stitch from the right needle onto the left needle, and then you just do whatever these call for. And it took a little bit of memorizing because there's some where you knit from the needle, like this is a knit, and then there's some where you knit through the back loop. And the mistake that I realized I made now that I'm making this video is that these, where we have this regular knit stitch in the pattern, where the cabling is, where that cable stitch is, it should have been a knit and then a knit through the back loop. And what I was doing was, these are actually knit through the back loop, knit through the back loop. I don't know that that's going to make, I mean, it'll make some difference, but I think the integrity of the sock is still there. So anyway, I hope that helped, and I'll have my, or leave me a comment if you have any questions, or you can message me on Ravelry at knitting-dude. That's my screen name, and let me know if this helped you out.